Heather here, and welcome to our next This Is Us chat. And today we're going to be speaking to Wendy Searle, who hardly needs an introduction. Wendy Searle is a polar explorer. That's one of the hats that she wears. And she's done expeditions all across the globe, from Norway. She's done a crossing of Greenland. And then most recently, she became the 4th fastest woman to ski solo unsupported to the South Pole. She did all that. She planned it, she fundraised, and she trained while juggling a full-time job, her husband who was away for 6 months, and also with 4 children at home. So it's an absolute honour to have you on today, Wendy. And I suppose my first question is, how are you doing and how's lockdown treating you?
Hey Heather, thanks for that amazing introduction. And when you put it all together like that, it does sound a bit crazy, but yeah, I kind of it was more like just one day at a time and getting through it all, which is a bit like now, really. I mean, I don't know about anybody else, but there are some days, so in our house with so many of us, 4 kids, and both of us trying to work at the moment, sometimes from home, sometimes kind of physically in the office, that everything is highlighted. So like the good bits about our family are highlighted. Sometimes we get on just amazingly, and you know, there's like loads of laughter, and then sometimes we're just like absolutely at each other's throats, and you know, it's all about whose turn it is to do such and such a job. And I don't know, I don't think it's easy for anyone, and we're all just kind of muddling through at the moment. But yeah, it's strange times.
Couldn't agree more with that. It's a total roller coaster. I'm finding it the same. I was just laughing that, you know, Wendy's sitting in her toilet because it's the only place that...
Yeah, I'm actually on the loo, the seat's down, so yeah.
I tried to be in the office.
Place I can get some peace and quiet.
Tried to be in the office, but I couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work, so I'm in the dining room, which is doubling as a schoolroom. So anyway, back to it. So Wendy, you know, tell us a bit more about your connection to the military.
I think the military, like it or like it not, is pretty much my life. So I've been married to Jan, who's in the RDG for maybe 16 years. Don't test me. Oh, 18. Oh gosh, don't you? And we have moved all over. We've been quite lucky in that we haven't had too many moves, so that I've kind of been able to work in between times. And we spent time in Germany, which we loved, and then, you know, all over the UK. And then somehow my jobs have kind of always been in that world as well. So I've done a bit with BFBS and Army Families Federation. I'm now working for Army HQ. So, you know, I think I'm kind of, I just have to accept the fact that that's going to be, you know, it's totally my life, and living it and breathing it all the time.
And so what sparked your passion for the outdoors then?
It's really funny because when I was little, we used to go on loads of family holidays that involved outdoor exercise. Like we never went on foreign holidays. We always went on wholesome cycling holidays or trips to the Lake District. I honestly hated it. I had to like terrible, I won't mention any brands, but I had terrible like waterproofs that weren't actually waterproof, and kind of pair of wellies, and I just remember it as being really kind of miserable. I was always wet, and you know, and I don't remember it as being particularly joyful, but something obviously the seed was sown. And when my youngest was very young, I started doing Race for Life. So I think the other one that's really popular has sort of taken over now, but the Race for Life was quite a new thing then. It was only 5k, and I thought, you know, I'll just go for a bit of a jog, and that turned into doing a bit more. I preferred sort of trail and fell running, and got a bit into that, and you know, it definitely kind of reawakened my love of the outdoors, and it's kind of grown from there.
Definitely remember those family holidays, and I think I'm now dragging my kids on some little.
We do exactly the same to our own kids.
Oh yeah. Oh, and so, you know, how did you hear about FWC, and what made you get involved?
So you and I met a long time ago, and I think it was through Louis Rudd, who was eventually my expedition manager for my polar journey, that I think he met up with you, and you were then planning the volcano trip and other things going on from there. So it was a little while until we actually properly met, but then FWC have been amazing, and they definitely kind of filled the gap in the market that I was looking for with, because coffee mornings and things, because I worked and they just weren't my thing. But when I heard about this, it was like, this is who I am, and the fact that it's been such a runaway success has only kind of confirmed that lots of other people were looking for that as well. So it's been so brilliant to kind of have been on that journey with you, and to have had financial support from FWC, and without that I just wouldn't have been able to do my expedition. So yeah, and I've actually, underneath this, I have actually got my Forces Wives Challenge top on, but yeah, it's a bit chilly in the loo.
Oh, brilliant. Well, so I suppose, I want to hear more about the South Pole. Firstly, what on earth made you want to do it? And then, yeah, tell me about it. Tell me about the emotional journey that you went on.
So the short version is, I met this army team that were doing this expedition, and they, I just didn't really realise that was something people still did. I can't honestly say that I knew probably who Shackleton was or anything like that when I was growing up. It's not like I always held this dream, and I think that's really important for me when I talk about the expedition, because you hear so many stories about, I've always wanted to do such and such, but sometimes, you come to things at different stages in life. Sometimes having kids or frequent house moves, whatever, you can't get to those things, but that doesn't mean they're not sort of in you, that they're not there somewhere. So there was always going to be something, something big, something epic. And then when I met these guys, I thought, actually, the more I learned about it, the more it kind of drew me in, and reading about polar history and stuff. And the women in polar history is a whole kind of topic of itself. But the first people to reach the South Pole were in Amundsen in 1911, Scott in 1912. It wasn't until 1969 that a female team of scientists landed at the South Pole. And people used to say right up until kind of the 70s that the Antarctica wasn't a suitable place for a woman, and if anything, that only makes me want to kind of do it more.
Definitely. And I think the thing that really struck me, and I mentioned it in the introduction, is it was just how passionately you wanted to do it, and it really showed me that if you want something badly enough, anything's possible. And I've planned expeditions much less than going to the South Pole, but I know how much work and time goes into it, and the fundraising, the training, the planning, all of that, and then trying to do that with a full-time job with 4 kids, and then your husband being deployed for 6 months. I just think you had so many excuses you could have used to defer it for a year. Nobody would have thought anything bad of you, but you were absolutely determined to make it happen. And what drove you on, really?
The thing about deployments and the whole army career thing is you know only too well, is that this was, when I went, it was my only chance to do it, because my husband had rearranged basically his entire career around me being able to go and do this, and the deployment was part of that, so that he could be back in time. And this it was now or never, and so I had to kind of just throw absolutely everything behind it. And I know we had so many conversations where you said, I know you're going to do this, and you probably won't get the last bit of money until you're getting on the plane. And, there were definitely times when you just think, I'm not going to make this, this is not going to happen. But you can't think like that, because if you do, the minute you do, you think, well, there's no point in going for that 10-mile run. There's no point in dragging tires around the place. There's no point in kind of going around with what feels like a begging bowl, even though it's not like that. But, you just feel like you're asking people for money all the time. And you go to some places and it's so positive, and then the answer still comes back as a no. And it's not that people don't want to help, it's that the mechanisms of their organisation won't allow it sometimes. But you kind of get your hopes up, you think, if I could just get this money, that'd get me over the line, and then it doesn't happen, and you've got to pick yourself right up from the depths of kind of, this is never going to work, and sort of the next morning be like, this is amazing, I'm definitely going to make this happen, to the next potential sponsor. And then kind of in between dashing to work, and they were probably tearing their hair out about just me trying to kind of keep so many plates spinning, and I sort of just about got away with it. But the drive to do it, I can honestly say that I'm not a natural completer finisher. I'm very easily swayed by kind of big ideas and big plans. But it was so important to me, because I know that I'm like that, to actually go for it. And then in the end, the more people that you tell, like, I've been on TV saying I'm going to do this, there's absolutely no way I was going to back out. And then everyone that supported me in whatever way, whether that was money or kit or moral support, I just felt like I didn't want to let anybody down. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to let myself down. I wanted to do something that I was proud of. And I think if I'd known how hard it was going to be, the whole thing, the fundraising and the training and kind of lying in rivers and getting up at 5 a.m. and all of that stuff, and how hard the journey itself was, I think I probably wouldn't have done it. So
I can completely identify with that. Like someone said to me, you will only get the last money as you get on the plane, and yeah, it was exactly the same for me as well, and the amount of pressure. So what was it like landing in Antarctica when the plane flies off and you're on your own? How does that feel, like, coming from a family, such a big family where I imagine you're very rarely on your own? How did that feel?
It's really hard to describe. I think the first thing I'd say is that as a woman, I feel like it's okay to be emotional and express how emotional it was. And there was so much crying involved in the whole expedition, but sort of from the moment I was given you get given a boarding card for the big charter plane that gets you into Antarctica, and you get this special boarding card. And I've been down to South America several times with other expeditions, supporting them and seeing them get their boarding cards and get on that plane. And I said, I'm never coming down here again unless I'm getting on that plane. And just to be handed that boarding card, even talking about it now makes me feel a bit emotional, because that's the culmination of all the work getting you to the start point. And then getting off, the door opens and you can see Antarctica, and it's just the most kind of breathtaking place, and it's such a privilege to be there. I kind of walked down the steps and I was crying then, but actually once I was dropped off, it was very much into thinking about, you were so focused and thinking about kind of not messing it up and staying alive, and which direction you're skiing in and how to put your tent up without it blowing away, all of those things. That actually I never felt lonely. I probably felt a bit more scared in hindsight, but at the time it was just about, making sure that you did everything that you trained for, everything methodically, so that you didn't make any kind of catastrophic mistakes, because tiny mistakes can become kind of really dangerous and life-threatening really quickly. So you kind of don't want anything to go wrong, and that constant focus, you're either focusing on those things or you're sleeping for the entire time that you're away. It kind of fills your brain. It's really surprising. But yeah, it was absolutely exhausting as well, and just mentally so hard. And physically it was hard because of kind of pulling this weight of this sled for 42 days for 12 hours a day. But I knew it was going to be hard, physically hard, and I trained so hard. I've been so religious about it. But the mental side of it, of you're making such tiny progress. It was 715 miles, and you're making sort of 20 miles a day, and it just feels like you're never going to make it. And at any moment something could go wrong and you'd have to pull the plug. So you never feel like, I've got this. Even within sort of the last 60 nautical miles, which is, about sort of 80 miles, within 80 miles of the pole, people kind of cross that degree line and think, that's it. Everything's going to be fine. I'm nearly there, but it's, things can still go badly wrong. It's very cold there. The altitude's very high. So, the risks are great at that point. And it wasn't actually until I saw the South Pole Station, which is an absolutely massive building. I was 9.6 nautical miles away, and that was more of a moment for me than actually reaching the South Pole, because seeing that, and actually I thought, even though I was probably 9 hours skiing away, maybe, I thought, this is it. I'm going to make it. I'm going to be safe. I've lived. I've succeeded. I haven't taken a resupply. I've done it in a way that I'm proud of. It's going to be okay. But until that point, you can never kind of assume anything. So yeah, that moment was the kind of the whole of the 5 years of dreaming and training and fundraising and planning and sacrifice and hard work and kind of juggling, all was in that single moment. And it was the most, apart from the birth of my kids, obviously kids, most momentous day of my life. It was incredible. And finishing it made me just feel like everyone said to me, oh, you know, we know you've got this, and we know you can do this, and we believe in you. And I appreciated what they were saying, but I didn't believe it. But I had to kind of trick myself into thinking that I did. But it wasn't until that moment that I actually started believing in myself. And it was such a transformative moment for me, that, you know, to have succeeded and not messed it up, which I was quite convinced. I was just convinced I was going to be rubbish, ski off in the wrong direction, or kind of fall in a crevasse, or just do something stupid. And having reached that point and seeing that I was going to make it was actually it's such a massive boost. I would say that moment changed who I am as a person, and made me feel kind of quite scarily invincible. So whatever you say to me now, if you say, oh, do you want to go and do this, or, you know, what do you think about that, even if, you know, like talking to 500 people, or, you know, going back to skydiving, or whatever crazy thing it is, you know, let's go and paddle down the Amazon, I would just go, yeah, you know, I'd figure out a way to do this.
I think, you know, I loved following your journey, you know, every day, listening to your audio and reading your blogs and seeing your photos. It was absolutely incredible. And you know, I felt really emotional when you got to the South Pole, and I just felt so proud of you. I don't know whether that was a bit random, but and actually it's really humbling for you to sort of admit that, you know, there were times when you doubted yourself, and because, you know, you seem invincible, like you said, and actually to hear that there were times when you didn't know if you were going to get the money, and you know, it wasn't until you got to the South Pole that you saw the building that you realised that, you know, I'm going to do this, and yeah, what an incredible journey. And then to feel that having done that, the follow-on has meant your confidence boosted, you know. And it is Mental Health Awareness Week, and, you know, this is all about the positive power of the outdoors and adventure. And, you know, as military spouses, we go through a lot, and so just really a bit of advice on, you know, how you harnessed all of that to help you overcome the challenges military life throws at us.
One thing I wanted to talk about was that you said invincible, and people have talked about superwoman and stuff like that, and I really try and shy away from that, because that is just not who I am. I'm just a mum. I'm just, you know, someone who's just trying to kind of hold it all together, like all of us. So doing that 5K, that race for life, or you know, that sort of day in the hills, or and then you can kind of, unless you push your comfort zone, you will never grow. So my comfort zone was, you know, I'd never skied before, so I took myself off and did a 2-week training course, and that was the extent of my comfort zone. So you can get to that by just doing smaller things. And just, I think also, you know, especially with kids, if you take them outside and do outdoor stuff with them, it is easier. And just being kind of, I can really remember being in Germany on a Sunday with my husband away, and like 3 tiny kids and a dog that needed walking and stuff, and there was literally not a thing to do. There was, you know, they're very much family orientated. Most of the wives have gone back to not all of them, but most of the wives have gone back to the UK during the tour. The shops weren't open. You're like, what do you do? So we just walked. We walked, you know, the city, you know, that did kind of help me manage things. And I just think being outside and being in nature and being physically active just kind of gives you a bit of perspective about, you know, you're just kind of just doing your thing and putting one foot in front of the other. And that's kind of quite a good metaphor for life, really, because that's all you can do, you know, just take each day as it comes, get out there and keep putting one foot in front of the other. And you know, it's amazing what you can achieve when you put all those little bits of, you know, progress together.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And so final question really, what advice would you, to any of our listeners who have heard your story and they're really keen to go out on their own adventure, and it might not be to ski to the South Pole, it might be to climb Snowdon, or whatever it is, but maybe they're feeling a bit nervous, what would your advice be?
Why not ski to the South Pole? Whatever your thing is, what dream big and it's achievable. But I think that the people, say these trite things, like achieve your dreams, all this kind of thing. But actually, you do need a plan, and you need to be consistent. So I got to the South Pole I was skiing pretty slowly. I'm 5'5". I was losing weight every single day. My pulk was 86 kilos. I wasn't moving particularly fast, but I was consistent every single day. And so when you put all that together, that makes up to quite a big distance. And then with my training and fundraising, everything, I just did something every single day. And those little tiny bits add up to a big whole. So if you're trying to achieve something, you have to attack it in that way and make sure that you kind of just keep taking little nibbles out of it. And it's like noticing a puppy grow. All of a sudden there's a kind of fully grown dog, and you kind of don't almost realize how you've got to that point. So yeah, approach it in a consistent way and just keep chipping away, and that's almost more important than skills or experience, in certainly for what I did.
Well, thank you so much, Wendy, and really excited to hopefully go on an adventure with you soon.
I hope so.
We'll dream up something big, I'm sure. So our chat to Wendy brings us to the end of Mental Health Awareness Week, and I really hope that you've enjoyed these chats we've had. At FWC, we are passionate about the power of the outdoors and physical activity to help us get over some of the challenges that military life throws at us. We've just heard from 5 voices from our community, a community that's now nearly 600 strong. So I really hope that something's resonated with you. And it's shown that, you're really not alone. Military life can be tough, filled with uncertainty and oftentimes of loneliness and isolation. But you're really not alone. And if you are struggling, please reach out. There's always someone out there to help. So that's it from me, and just leaves me to say, stay safe. Bye.